March 2nd. It is now 8:05 p.m. Would everyone who's able please rise so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On behalf of all the staff and all of your city council members, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for coming out this evening. The first item we have is to show that we do have a quorum present to proceed with business. Wanted to know if there are any agenda additions or deletions at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask that we move item C on the consent agenda to a future meeting.
Second.
No. I'm going to ask that we move forward tonight with item C. We can move through it and be done. With item C, you asked, I'm sorry.
On the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard new
no.
business.
No,
okay.
no, sir.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Wolf.
No,
Okay.
that's a different item. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Sorry, Mr.
Call for the question. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's so moved. Are there any other additional additions or deletions at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask that we move item C, which is under new business, to item A, under new business.
Seconded.
Any discussion? It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, as we move to citizen participation. Thank you. We will try to limit, I've been reminded, to 2 minutes. As you come up, please state your name and where you live. And yes, Gary Allen, you're up first.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to come before you this evening to speak to 2 items that are on your agenda this evening. The first is on your consent agenda. And to spend just a minute, since it is on the consent agenda, it's one that's not likely to get a lot of attention and be passed over fairly quickly on your agenda, but it is nevertheless an extremely important item on your agenda, and I wanted to highlight it because it is the approval of Resolution R2120 in support of the Mayor's Climate Agreement. The Mayor's Climate Agreement is an outstanding bipartisan agreement brought together by over 400 of the nation's mayors that have been working together cooperatively since 2014 to help advance what local government can do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and ultimately to offset some of the more negative actions that have not been taken at the federal level by expressing the strong support for local commitments to these actions. You may recall that in early February, in my comments with respect to the program for the EAC and the next 10 steps toward a green Bowie, we promised you at that time that we would provide you with a climate action plan for the city of Bowie. This resolution is the first step in that process by asking our mayor to collaboratively support and work together with the communities across the nation to make the commitment called for in this resolution this evening. But Mr. Mayor, that's not the last step. It's merely the first step. And you will see me again very shortly, probably within less than a month, to talk about the details of the climate action plan, because the last step in the resolution that's before you this evening directs the EAC to define and recommend for council a climate action plan this year to implement this commitment, that is, a commitment on behalf of our community to call upon this government and our citizens to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as a signal to all others that are working cooperatively to make this place a better place to live in our community and across the nation. Mr. Mayor, I commend that resolution to your support for the full council this evening. Having said that, I hope you'll indulge me a moment more to spend just a few minutes on another one of the items that you've just changed in your agenda this evening. And I couldn't help but notice that Councilman Gardner has advanced the item on item C, recognition of former Mayor G. Frederick Robinson. As one of those who is, in fact, one of his predecessors, I couldn't help but note that he spent more than 20 years sitting in the seat that you now occupy, Mr. Mayor. It's important that every community take the time to recognize the commitment and support that is called for whenever a local individual, local citizen steps forth for election, provides and supports the commitments of the community, wins those elections, and then goes on to fashion an agenda that enjoys the continuing commitment of his community for nearly 2 decades. It seems to me, as one of his predecessors, entirely appropriate that this council take the time and focus its attention on trying to provide some recognition for that commitment. And I couldn't help but notice that one of the things that you'll be discussing later this evening is changing the name of the road in front of this building. I think that's an entirely appropriate way to recognize Mayor Robinson's service to this community. It has an enormous impact, not merely in changing the name of a local street, but also, frankly, in changing the address of this building that he worked so hard to preside over and to help deliver a full agenda of accomplishments in a 20-year career. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I commend my respect for his service to your attention. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, Len Lucci.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of Bowie City Council. What a pleasure it is to be here. I want to join Mayor Allen in endorsing item 12A now and recognizing Mayor Robinson. He's really given his whole adult life to service in this area. First as a Prince George's County police officer, rising to the rank of being commander for the Bowie Marlboro District and commander of the Special Operations Division, and then several terms as a Bowie City Council member, and then 21 years in distinguished service as mayor, where he helped oversee the completion of the Bowie Senior Center, the Bowie Gymnasium, the Bowie Police Department, the AAA bond rating, and of course this building that we're in now, this beautiful building that's going to last 100 years. That was built under budget and ahead of schedule. So I think it's a great idea to name the street after Mayor Robinson, and I appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Millie Hall. Good evening, Ms. Hall.
Good evening. Good evening. The state of Maryland has an open meetings law. Agendas must be presented to the public before the council meetings. It appears that the new business that was just changed from C to A, recognizing the former Fred G. Robertson, council member Gardner, will present, like some components of the agenda, such as the description of the items. For example, all consent agendas, all old business items, all new business items, A and B have hyphen links to explain the items. Well, I know now because everybody's mentioned it, but when you just look on the agenda, you have no idea what it's about. It is only the new business item C that does not have hyphen link to give a description on the items. Why is that? We, the public, should be given full disclosure of new business, which was business C. Why also is there no business comments herein listed for new business C? I suggest this item be re-advertised with a description to give the citizens a chance to digest the council's plan. I hope this agenda is not voted on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Henry Turner Jr. Good evening.
Good evening, Bowie City Hall, I should say City Council, and my friend, the Mayor Timothy Adams. I want to say that I'm truly honored to be here today to speak to you here in Bowie City. I stand here in awe in how this city of Bowie has transformed from when I was a child in 1973 to the vibrant and diverse and trend-setting city we see now. I remember when I was bused from Pointer Ridge here in South Bowie because our community was white to integrate Largo Senior High School. We were one of less than 10 black families living in the city of Bowie in Pointer Ridge. My father used to say, "Boy, remember to be home before it gets dark." Now, look at the city of Bowie. The population is diverse. The city council is diverse. Bowie has its own police force. Bowie is a vibrant city. It has its first mayor of color, my friend Timothy Adams, and fellow Q. It's my fraternity. I tell you, I fully support the man that made all this possible. He truly helped make the city of Bowie what it is today, and that is Mayor Fred Robinson. Naming the City Hall street after Fred Robinson is not only appropriate, but it's appropriate because he's not only the city mayor, but he's also a fellow veteran like myself, part of the United States Army. He started his service to our country at a young age, and he continued all the way through as a Bowie City mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Lavera.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm not here to wax eloquent for Fred, but I do support what you all are approving. I think it's very appropriate. I'm here transitioning into the census, which we know is coming. And I want to thank Ingrid Harrison, who with me and Una Cooper and Maddie Bizerto, the four of us are working together on the plan to make sure that all of Bowie is included and counted. There's some marvelous programs that you will see in the schools in particular. You know, when the little kids, they can't vote, but they say, "I can't vote, but I count." So that's really important, that it's a baby born on April 1st will be counted in the census. And what's really important is the money. Each one of us is worth the equivalent of over $18,000 spread over 10 years. If we don't have that money, some of our social services will be cut. Prince George's County lost millions in the last census because it wasn't, not all of us were counted. So join with me, and Ingrid and I will plot census minutes most of the council meetings, so everybody at home will know what's coming. But I will show this flyer. This is going to be posted pretty much everywhere. Plus you can Google U.S. Census, and everything you want to know is there. Final comment, this is a statistical data gathering instrument. It doesn't care about a whole lot of things that people worry about. They just want to know who lives in each house. Doesn't matter whether they rent or own or whatever. If they sleep there April 1st, that's where they're going to be counted. So stay tuned for more.
Thank you so much for supporting and making sure we all are so aware of the importance of the census. Up next, Eddie Pounds.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor
Good
and
evening.
City Council. Hope you're all doing well. It's good to see you all again, and I'm glad not to be here reporting out on legislation in Annapolis. Listen, I really am grateful for the opportunity to provide remarks about a remarkable man, our former mayor, Fred Robinson. I had the pleasure of serving as the treasurer for Mr. Robinson for 10 of his 20-year service. I learned a lot from him. I learned what it is like, I should say, to be a public servant if I ever desired to run for office. That still remains to be seen. Everything that could be said about Fred has already been said tonight, so will not be redundant. But I will say that what you are considering tonight, you should be applauded for, because Fred was is a very honorable man, and he's still alive. So let me make sure I say it that way. And I think it's befitting to do things, if you give me flowers, give them to me while I'm alive. And so for that, we're forever indebted to you all for your kindness and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all the public comments we have at this time. City Clerk?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right. City Manager. Not discussing any of the things that went on. We heard some comment about whether or not we could proceed with new business A. Is that something we need to address now or just wait till later?
No, we can move forward.
Mr. Mayor, can we consult with council really quick, just so it's on the record?
There is no problem with you moving forward.
Okay. All right. Presentations. All right. We are happy to announce and give a proclamation to Mr. Olufemi Moses for winning first place on the Who We Are art competition. Is he happen to be here this evening? Well, I'm going to just quickly read this for the record. Be it hereby known to all that Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland takes pleasure in congratulating Olufemi Moses on winning first place in the Who We Are art competition. Council wishes to take this opportunity to commend Mr. Moses on his win and wishes him great success on his future artwork. Presented by the Bowie City Council on this second day of March 2020, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. So let's give him a round of applause. Do we have representatives from Samuel Ogle Middle School here? Could you please come forward?
So greetings, Mayor, and all of the council members. I'm Selena Archibald. I'm the athletic director at Samuel Ogle Middle School. And I've brought along our champions for baseball and basketball, as well as our coaches. And this is our principal, Ms. Glenice Marshall. So these are some of our players that came out tonight, and we do appreciate you all inviting us here this evening.
Okay, well, what we'd like to do right now is to read a proclamation of the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, congratulating the Samuel Ogle Middle School boys baseball team on winning their league championship. Whereas the Samuel Ogle Middle School boys baseball team has completed a great season, and whereas the team has represented the City of Bowie in the championship And whereas under the leadership of head coach Casey Willis and assistant coach Selena Archibald inspired some great student athletes. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, is proud to recognize the outstanding achievement of Samuel Ogle Middle School boys baseball team, all their coaches, all their club sponsors, and all their parents, and present this city proclamation to forever record this magical season. Introduced and passed by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, at a regular meeting on March 2nd, 2020, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. But we have some of those, but I'd also like to take a moment now and do a proclamation of the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, congratulating the Samuel Ogle Middle School boys basketball team on winning their league championship. Whereas the Samuel Ogle Middle School boys basketball team has completed a great season, and whereas the team has represented the City of Bowie in the championship, and whereas under the leadership of the head coach Terrence Smith and assistant coaches James Green and Michael Hayes inspired some great student athletes. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, is proud to recognize the outstanding achievement of the Samuel Ogle Middle School boys basketball team, all their coaches, all their club sponsors, and all their parents, and present this city proclamation to forever record this magical season. Introduced and passed by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, at a regular meeting on March 2nd, 2020, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. Thank you so very much. Please come forward. You know what? Shall we go down? That's right. And hold that for it. Let's go down.
Get back here and take some photos. Okay. You guys want to line back up here and take some photos? Yes. Okay, with the mayor and the council. I should move the Oh, you did? Okay. Mayor Adams, you want to get this over here? And, yeah, that's the issue. Okay. All right, well. Yeah, so that way the mayor can sit up here. Yeah, there you go. So I did all of you guys. Roxy. You can't see you standing right there. There you go. All right, where we looking at? It's okay. On
Put a jinx on me. My say take time. That's on me.
All right, I'm gonna slide behind you.
I'm sorry.
You're fine, just don't go backwards.
Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Before I be seated, I just wanted to let you know that the boys baseball and basketball team, our whole athletic department, had something for you as well. Because of your dedication and the fact that you acknowledged Samuel Ogle as we know champions, we do appreciate the time that you came to our school and your council members came along as well. So we have a plaque here for you. I'm going to just briefly read it for everyone to hear. Presented to Mayor Adams. Thank you for visiting our school and acknowledging our boys' baseball and basketball teams for winning the county championship. We appreciate your support and wish you continued success as mayor of Bowie. Thank you very much, and that's from Samuel Ogle Middle School Athletic Department.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the entire city council, we thank you. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Excuse me. 1 second. These actually, the Proclamation. No, that's, but that one didn't need to get there.
This is yours.
This one. Yeah. Thank you.
And
Okay, continuing with the agenda, reports by the city boards and committees. We have appointments. Is Leslie Mowbray here? Oh, I just wanted to make sure he was here. Go ahead, make the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Leslie Mowbray as a member of our Education Committee.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so very much.
Welcome and congratulations. Hey, come on up, Mr. Bowie, come on up.
Come around.
Here you go. Let me just read this really quick. And this says, this is a certificate of appointment to Leslie Mowbray is hereby appointed as a member of the Education Committee by the Bowie City Council, March 2nd, 2020, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. Congratulations, huh?
Are we swearing him in?
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that in 1 second. Oh, that. And here we go. Would you raise your right hand, please? Step back and raise your right hand. All right. I state your name.
I, Leslie Mowbray,
Do swear or affirm
I do swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of regular
execute the office of regular
member of the,
member of the Education
according to the Constitution and laws
according to the Constitution and laws
of this state.
of this state.
Congratulations and welcome. Thank you for your service.
Congratulations. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much for getting involved. We really appreciate it.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Could you pull me some too, ma'am?
Oh, Les Bird, how you doing, Les? Good to see you. It's been years.
I just want to remember I moved that to A.
Before you leave. Okay. It's just funny. Hey, what's up, Mr. How you doing, sir? Mr. Motley.
We move now to any council announcements. There being none, we move on to the city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, I have no report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, city manager. The consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Old business. South Lake detailed site plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Frank Stevens of the City Planning Staff. Here tonight to review with you detailed site plan DSP 19023 for the South Lake mixed-use community. I'm going to refer to our memo dated February 27th of this year, which provides a history and a background of this particular case. The council conducted a public hearing on this DSP on December 2nd and postponed making a decision on it at that time. The reason was you suggested that a second stakeholders meeting be held regarding this particular application. That meeting took place on January 16th of this year, and a summary of that meeting is provided as attachment 1 to the memo. To refresh you a little bit, there are 1,035 dwelling units proposed as part of this DSP on 283 acres. In addition to the dwelling units, which include single-family units, townhouse units, and 2/2 units, a clubhouse, in-ground pool, recreational amenities, trail network are also proposed. During the week of February 17th of this year, we received revised plans that reviewed some of the, addressed some of the conditions of our report, initial report dated November 27th. That's attachment 2 to the whole package. And we reviewed those plans, and based on our review, we've developed a recommendation which is cited on page 3 of our February 27th memo. We're recommending that this DSP be approved with the conditions cited on page 3 of our report. That concludes our presentation regarding DSP 19023.
Comments?
For efficiency, would it be good to address both of them at the same time?
I think we would need two separate
motions?
motions and letters, so I think we should dispense with one and then move on to the other.
Yeah, 2 separate public hearings also are required.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is anyone? Do we?
At this time, Mayor and Council, I think we should hear from the applicant regarding DSP 19023. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Arthur Horn of the Law Office of Shipley Horn, here on behalf of the applicant, the Chesapeake Realty Properties, represented by Mr. Scott Rout, who's here. Also, it's a joint venture, as you recall, with NAA Micro Companies, represented by Mr. Kevin Kennedy, who's here. We also have with us our civil engineer, Mr. Nat Ballard, and our community representative, Mr. Tony Perez. Just want to thank the City Council for its patience in working with us on this. We have, as Mr. Stevens mentioned, had an additional public hearing. We have had an opportunity to come in and work with the city staff, and we actually agree with the recommendation of the city and its conditions. And we're here to answer any questions you may have, but I know you all have heard us several times, but we're supportive of the application and the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions at this point from anyone? Councilman? Yes, and I'm calling. All right, if Jacqueline Grazzetti could please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you. I just wanted to quickly say some questions coming from the back. Many members of the public are not aware of what changes have been suggested by the developer that the city have accepted. I don't know if you all want to share those, but just wanted to put that out there. My name is Jacqueline Grazette. For 13 years, I resided at 15705 Perkins Lane in Pointer Ridge. I now live at 17001 Queen Anne Road, right outside of Bowie. I am chair of the steering committee of Prince George's Citizens for Smarter Development. About 500 of the Prince George's citizens, largely drawn from the South Bowie area and other parts of the county, who would love to see smarter development. I just wanted to update you a little bit from the comments that I made on the December 2nd hearing. We did meet with the developer, Mr. Kennedy, and contractor Tony Perez, and tried to see if we could find areas of common ground. Some were identified, or at least acknowledged by the developer. We both agree that school funding dedicated to Bowie needs to occur, and I think everyone does. We agreed that there should be no low-end grocery store located here. We shared with them our desire to see either a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or something of that ilk. They said to us that they do not plan to do a low-end grocery store, but they could not reveal to us who they were talking to. We talked about retail capacity and the need to rethink it, given all that's happened with the closing of stores. Subsequent to our meeting, we've learned that Pier 1 has closed and gone to bankruptcy, that Macy's has announced more Maryland stores will close, and that Learners, that owns several of the stores within Bowie Town Center, may close some of those. Areas where we seem to remain apart is, number one, that the need for retail at all of a major scale in this development, we would love again to see it stay residential, and we talked about the fact that they have been rezoned several times, or at least have requested adjustments to the initial rezoning that made it a mixed use. Could it not be rezoned again to residential? We talked about the traffic capacity, and we still remain far apart on that and whether or not the area can absorb it. We talked about the sports park. The developer acknowledged we are not for it. The developer acknowledged that this was a project more of the Prince George's County Council's interest, and Doug Peters specifically. We remain opposed to the South Lake development for those reasons and for those that were given before, but I'd also like to share briefly some suggestions of solutions. Number one, we talked with them and we talked with you about the need possibly to re-engage Amazon. As you know, Amazon wanted to be located in the county, was not able to at the Westphalia development. The Trade Zone Avenue has tremendous warehouse capacity. Is it possible to consider re-engaging around that? And the possibility of asking Amazon in exchange for that, would it bring one of its smaller Whole Food stores to us? We talked about, can we protect the last copse of trees that has not been cut down by the developer that remains directly across, sort of adjacent to the Wawa service station. The zoning status for Bowie, we urge the council to join with us in trying to get that and to demand that a high school, if this development is going to be built, comes forth. And then finally, we still advocate for senior housing, something that is not in abundance in Bowie at this point. The last time we were here, that was mentioned in our conversations with the developer, that was still not addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zula Crutchfield?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
I want to tell you a quick story in 2 minutes. My husband and I are residents of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and I have lived in this area since 2007. We were both military and lived in Kansas. When we came here, back to our home of records, Maryland, we wanted to find a place to live. Our choices was Bethesda or Rockville, because we know those are names. And quite truly, we said not Prince George County. Whew. And when I came here looking for a place in Virginia and also Maryland, those two areas up there, one thing that caught my eye that just marveled me was 301. When I drove down 301, it was a quiet, tranquil area. I mean, it was so beautiful. I saw the farm area. I saw everything. It was just nice. And I said, this is where I'm going to live. So I moved to Beechtree, and wow, things have changed. And I just love this area. I tell people truly about this area. I work for the federal government, and I tell people who come to this area to work for the federal government, foreigners and everything, where I live at. And they come and they said they live in Bethesda and Rockville, and they come there and say, oh, I love it. I said, you come and live here, just don't bring your friends, okay? And so this is what I'm telling you about. You have a jewel, and I don't think you know it. You have a jewel right here, 301 in Prince George County. And Bethesda and Rockville, I'm so glad I didn't live up there. I am so glad. I have been here, and I love this area. And now I see this place coming up here, South Lake. I know I can't stop it, but I want you to do something. 301 is a danger zone because it's so congested. And look at you building, and I live in Beechtree. The houses we have there, now you're gonna build this other humongous development. I can't stop it, but please do something about 301. You can't build this mega place without doing something with 301. I can suggest you go down to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. They have a beautiful way of getting around in busy streets. But that's all I want to say to you. And remember again, keep in mind, you are not Bethesda, you are not Rockville. They can't be you, but they want to be you. Okay? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up to speak this evening. Any questions? I think, can we have staff address, as one of the speakers brought up, some of the changes that were going to be included? Could you please address those for us?
I mean, the conditions that are in our report are stated both twice regarding, well, they're first in our memo of November 27th and then February 27th of this year. And they deal with architecture of the clubhouse, just some minor changes, which the applicant has agreed to all of these. Recreational amenities about the bike racks that are being installed, the identification of signage for areas that are going to be developed with recreational amenities, some changes to the landscaping, and a note about how the signs, the directional and informational signs within the project are going to be lit. And the applicant has agreed with all of those. And these conditions that I just mentioned from our February 27th memo are just carried forward from our November 27th memo from last year, and the applicant has agreed with all of them.
Okay. I hope that answered the question that was being asked.
It does, and that none of the, and I don't mean this in a nasty way, but none of the substantive things we asked for have changed, but these things were added. Because obviously, we don't see the memos you send to vendors.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we address that. It's important.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Yeah, one of the speakers mentioned something about senior housing. Would you guys mind addressing that really quick, please?
Yes, actually, when it was mentioned, it's actually a part of the next presentation, which is the infrastructure, the architecture, DSP, and there are several units that are built for like senior house. They're not dedicated for seniors, but they are for people who want to age in place. And both NB Ryan and Ryan have focused in on that. They have at least 4 models, a ranch with the just a 1-story, with everything on the main level is, can sell for the mid 500s, and a ranch which is 2 stories. We have everything on the main level, but you also have some bedrooms up front in case you have visitors and stuff that can stay. And even the 2-over-2 condo, if the lower level is targeted for the housing. So though it's not designated as seniors per se, the number of models that are being proposed are there for the seniors as well. So we did address that. We didn't want to not answer the question, but it's actually a part of that next application instead of this application.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Horn, can you address what infrastructure changes will happen on 301?
Okay, the infrastructural changes. Let me just see, I need my transportation stuff. I don't want to misstate something. North, do you have, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, one of the things I do want to say while he pulls it up is that I guess it was earlier last week when the county council had its budget forms, and we went down and testified about funding for 301 to have that work. So again, we agree with what's being stated, that 301 needs to be improved and more, and we asked it to be put in the county's CIP program. So we were down there testifying on that behalf to try to make sure that some additional work can be done. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kevin Kennedy from Michael Companies, development representative. I'm going to use the cursor to point on the screen, if that's all right, to some of the improvements. The map that's up on the screen now it represents the detailed site plan for infrastructure, which is really on-site infrastructure, the roads highlighted in red. But in addition to those roads, which the main spine road will be a public road here, and also the connection to Prince George's Boulevard, we'll be making improvements on Old Central Avenue up to Central Avenue. There'll be a new traffic signal there. And then on 301 Crane Highway southbound, we have an additional lane going down the frontage of our property, as well as acceleration, deceleration lanes. We've got the main entrance here, which is already in place. You can see opposite the Wawa and the median. And there'll be 2 traffic signals there as well. So overall, I think our budget for off-site road improvements is in the neighborhood of $9 million for hard costs, and of course, there's a lot more cost behind that for design and permitting. The permit for the first phase of work, which is roughly the northern section of work on Old Central, and a little bit on 301, has been issued by State Highway. And I believe we're going out to bid for that work now with the intention of starting it in the late spring or summertime. And we are actively pursuing the other phase of permitting, which is the remainder of the 301 frontage as well. In future parts of the project, we have an additional subdivision in the center of the project that was approved in 2019, and with that comes additional improvements on 301 northbound. Unfortunately, it's cut off on the map, but 301 northbound from the Wawa crossover up towards Central Avenue would be improved and widened as part of the development of those 66 units that were added to the project. So that's generally the scope of the off-site road improvements. One thing that we have said in every hearing, so sorry if it's repetitive, but this project with its original approvals had the ability to just pay a lump sum fee into the county's general fund as a fee in lieu of actual road improvements. But our company, as a philosophy, as an approach to all of our projects, always likes to try to improve the whole neighborhood, not just the property that we own. And Mr. Michael has always made it a priority with regard to this project to make sure that these road improvements are advanced to the front of the process so that we have the road improvements designed and permitted and underway before we actually start building any buildings within our site. And we're on track to do that here.
Okay. Madam Chairwoman, at least Chairman, Council Member. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
Any other questions?
Appreciate that.
Oh.
I have some question. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time and effort being here, and certainly appreciate the accommodations, such as they are, that you've made so far. I got nothing for you guys, so you're off the hook on that. But I'd like to ask City Attorney if you could step through and remind me, if you would, please, where we stand with the annexation agreement and the limitations upon what we're able to do with regards to our making a position on this.
The annexation agreement contains a provision requiring the city to support development that is consistent with the development applications that had been approved as of the time of the date of the annexation agreement, which was several years ago.
Was it to support, or was it to not oppose, or was the restriction that we would not be able to oppose anything?
Yes, you cannot oppose things that are consistent with those plans.
Okay.
Follow-up question. This is, just for clarification here, this is just for the South Lake project, right? The annexation agreement you're speaking of specifically doesn't go to any other project, but okay,
yes.
Thank you.
That's correct.
I have one other question, and doesn't exactly go to the site plan, but we know that one of the major issues about this development that helped to move it forward even to this point was talking about there being somewhat of a food desert there, and about a major grocery shopping center being there, a major grocer. That was really key on what a lot of the previous council was pushing for. Can you give us any status on where that is at this point? Understanding that there are NDAs that you may have to go through or something, but it's about credibility, being very candid. And we need to know where that stands right now.
Sure, I'll take that one. I'm not on the leasing team, but I work very closely with the leasing team. As I think we've said before at previous meetings, we agree that the need for a high-quality grocery is a priority for this project. That's been our #1 leasing target and leasing pursuit for many years, but especially since we actually broke ground on the project and it started to become more visually apparent to the retailers in the area. We've been focusing on making that pitch and closing a deal with a major grocer. Unfortunately, at this time, we're still not at the point in a deal where we can announce names, but I will confirm what Ms. Grisette said earlier, that we did talk to her group about the shared goal of having a high-quality grocer here, and it is our primary target to get a high-quality, full-format, full-scale grocery store here, and that is the first tenant we will sign up. I'm pretty sure I can say that. This week is the ICSC Mid-Atlantic Conference. We're hopeful that we'll have some developments from that conference that will bring us closer to being able to say the name of the people that we're talking to primarily. But right now, we're unfortunately not at that point. We are, however, making it a top priority to get a quality grocer there.
I'm going to go a little bit outside of my lane here, and I'm just going to ask that, can we count on you from your personal reputations to guarantee that that will happen?
Yeah, to the extent that we can guarantee anything in this crazy world, yes. I mean, again, the Michael Companies has been in business in the county for over 50 years. I think I said at the last public stakeholder meeting, I will point to our track record in terms of the other retail centers that we develop, own, and manage. We always raise the bar for quality within the given area where we develop. Obviously, you already have a pretty high bar of quality in the city of Bowie, and we want to meet or exceed those expectations. So yeah, I think I can stand behind that.
Would you please come up as well?
To the extent I can, I don't control that portion of the lease or anything. I just represent the company. But I do know that, let me just say without...
representing us than any other.
That's true. That's
And
true.
yes, I put you on the spot.
But
Mr. Holmes.
I've represented them at College Park Marketplace. I've represented them at Ritchie Station Marketplace. And again, these, Mr. Michael, as Mr. Kennedy said, he has put his word that this is what they want to do. And without violating any attorney-client privilege, I can assure you that what Mr. Kennedy said is correct. They're working on a
And you
top
will
line.
work to make sure that that happens?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question. Oh, no, I'm not. No.
Can I, that's, okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Would you like to, was somebody saying?
Couple, actually, the city attorney had a question, and I have a question as soon as.
Okay, well,
I'm so sorry. I was backing up, and I can wait until this line of questioning is done. I just wanted to readdress Mr. Wolfley's question because I actually have the annexation agreement in front of me. I can tell you specifically what it says, but I realize that I've interjected at the wrong time, so I apologize.
Okay. Could you go ahead and follow up with that now, then? Thank you.
So, paragraph 1 of the warranties and representations of the city A says, the city supports, can you hear me?
a little louder,
Just
please.
barely.
Sorry, let's try that again. 1A on the annexation agreement, which is from June of 2016, says the city supports the existing development approvals from the Planning Commission and the County Council sitting as a district council for Carrington, which it was then called, as well as any pending or future applications for Carrington that are generally consistent with the aforementioned concept plan. Specifically, the city supports the development of Carrington as a mixed-use project consisting of approximately 381, et cetera, acres, including residential, retail, office, and hotel uses with reasonable amendments thereto. The city, in paragraph B, the city will not directly or indirectly establish, suggest, or acquiesce in any policy, take a position, pursue a course of action, require any standard or condition, or make any recommendation to the county or the Planning Commission or other governmental, quasi-governmental authority, et cetera, or impose any obligation that, as applied to the annexation area, is detrimental to the development of the Carrington project as set forth above. Parties agree that the project will be subject to development review standards applicable to other developments within the county. However, the city's approval of development and architectural plans is not required, nor are its comments binding.
Thank you. With that having been said, are we obligated to offer or to render an opinion on these proposals?
I would suggest not, that you are not obligated, but that if you were going to offer comments to the Planning Commission or other county agency referrals, those comments should be, quote, not inconsistent with the agreement.
Gotcha. So presumably then a motion to table indefinitely would be consistent, or would that run counter to the agreement?
The agreement does not require you to take a position.
Okay. Thank you.
And any other questions? One note that was passed to me, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, is that it was said that potentially another Wegmans has been secured for South Lake.
I can't confirm or deny because of the users. We will not be opposed to any such user.
Okay. I would like to turn again to staff. Excuse me? Turn to staff again and ask from the city planning office, from Mr. Minard, and tell us, what is your recommendation for the council at this point, from your understanding on the project?
Our recommendation is for approval, as we've stated in our staff report back in November, and as we updated in last week's memo.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns?
Take the vote.
Well, I have to wait on the motion, yeah.
Who wants, Rossi, you want to take the motion?
Whatever that motion is. Okay.
What? You want to
Go ahead.
Do you want to make the motion?
Council.
I move that we approve the detailed site plan for the South Lake project.
And I'd
Second.
like to second that.
It's,
Commentary?
Oh, yes.
Can I add comments?
yes, it's discussion. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. Just a couple things that I want to point out about this particular vote, this particular plan. So I just want, pardon? Oh, I just want to remind everybody, we're not here to approve or decline whether South Lake is going to happen. South Lake is going to happen regardless of whether Bowie City Council takes a stand or not. So I think it's very important that we as a community recognize that something so large that's coming to our city, that we need to have a seat at the table. We don't need to be left out in these important decisions that are being made. And I think the efforts that NAI Michaels have made to connect with the community, connect with the council, and just educate everybody on this project and what it's going to be, and trying to have it at the utmost value and what we would like to see it as, has been honestly very good. I think it's been very appropriate. So I really want everyone to really just take into consideration that, one, we don't have the ability to take a stand on whether this is coming or not. That was already passed on approximately January 17, 2019. That was already decided then. Our position here as a council is just to approve this site plan or either decline the site plan based off of whether it meets the requirements of the law. And that's basically what we're here for. I think it would be remiss for anybody on this council to vote no against this project, in particular because it violates the annexation agreement. And what that would be doing for us is subjecting you to a lawsuit of millions of dollars with taxpayer dollars, which I don't honestly feel like that's worth it. I don't feel like it's worth it for you to contribute more money for us to then enter a legal battle of us going against a contract that we've already kind of agreed to. So I think the position that we're in is very difficult as a council, and I think you elected most of us to make you elected most of us to make these important decisions for you and on your behalf, and understand that the council, any decision that's made today to vote to pass South Lake is not being made because we want to see more development. It's being made purely because it's in the best interest for the community. It's not in the best interest to go into this legal battle going down this hill of whether we're going to have this or whether we're not going to have this. It's already been approved. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Everybody understood that and understand that as a council, we are on our side. We are on your side. We are looking out for the best interest of the community. That is what we truly care about. But it would be remiss if we were to vote against this project and then enter a legal battle and then subject your taxpayer dollars to that. I just think that would be very remiss.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other discussion? Michael?
Yeah, just very briefly, I think that's kind of where, and with respect to my colleague Ndibu Madi's comments, I think this is where my colleague Dufour Wolfley was kind of coming from, right? Which is that Dufour and I have been fighting this project now for a number of years. We're completely opposed to the idea, and we're before that June 17 meeting, of promising $10 million in future tax revenue to a developer to build something that does 180 degrees the opposite of what our residents have been asking us to do for the last 4 years. So instead of opposing the project and subjecting ourselves to a lawsuit, or instead of endorsing a project that we have a lot of problems with, I think Dufour's made the point tonight correctly that we cannot take a position on this. I think we need to be careful about what we signal to residents and what we signal to the community at large. That we still have a lot of concerns about development, that the tax money that is generated from it largely goes to the county, and we do not see that here in Bowie. And that's something that as a council we've been very united on, and I think that we should continue to be united on. That being said, I understand completely where my colleagues are coming from with this. This is a tricky situation. I totally appreciate that, but I just wanted to make sure that my comments were made.
I just want to say one more
Thank you,
thing.
Councilman.
I'm just going to add really quickly. It's better to have a seat at the table for you to not be at the table. So I get where you're coming from. I get your sentiments, and I understand that that's what you guys would like to see go forward. But it does not make sense for the council to not have a seat at that table in this development, so it could end up looking like Bowie Town Center. Have you seen Bowie Town Center? We don't want that. I don't want another development in this city to look like the Bowie Town Center in the direction that it's going. So what would be the point of not having a seat at this table and being at the table and requiring the developer to do what it is that we need them to have a high-profile grocery store, to have all these things of quality in the development that's going to come irregardless of whether we're with it or not?
Councilwoman, thank you. I recognize the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think as my colleagues have just said, this is a very tricky situation for all of us. But as I've been saying for weeks now, at the end of the day, the development decision doesn't lie on us. On March 19th, you have the opportunity, regardless of what this council does, to go before the county and make your voice heard. Because that's where those folks have the final decision-making power. I do want to say one thing that I think is particularly important, regardless of what tonight's decision is, and regardless of what my colleagues decide to do tonight. I do think that NAI, Michael's just mentioned something very interesting about the county CIP program, and how regardless if your project comes or not to Bowie, 301 needs to be improved, and that should be a top priority for this council. And so regardless of tonight's decision, if you guys do get approval by the county, because that's where the final decision lies, we hope to work with you guys, and I assume you guys will get county approval. We hope to work with you guys to make sure that 301 is improved, not just improved on the governance list, but that we're also included on the CIP program of the county. As I've said too many times before, we are the largest municipality in Prince George's County. It's time to start acting like it.
Councilman Wolfley?
I want to weigh in a quick moment or two. As Councilman Esteve mentioned, this has been a long-running battle certainly for me and for Mr. Esteve. The community has not supported this from the get-go. The actions of the prior council, as far as I'm concerned, were not representative of the interest of the community. And it's no different now. And I don't have any intention of changing my stripes presently to accommodate convenience. I will say that I was vehemently opposed to the annexation agreement to begin with, and certainly the language which our city attorney read for everybody to hear was something that was particularly egregious in my mind. It really put a gag order on everybody going forward when that council at that time approved that, and basically kind of hamstrung everybody moving forward. And it's, I argued against it. I ended up not being on the council when the actual vote was taken. But nonetheless, it is what it is. We have that in the agreement. That having been said, choosing the method of one's demise hardly constitutes a seat at the table in my mind. I don't feel that being able to offer the minor changes, the accommodations that we've seen, which nonetheless I appreciate, the parties being here, and I appreciate, and I have no malice for the people who are involved with the development, but they're very minor in nature, and they really don't address the overall concerns that the community has and they've had for a long time. And that's, of course, with traffic, the impact on education, nor does it fairly represent the real world of retail and how it's changing. And I don't see how introducing new retail into our environment is all that helpful. So with that in mind, for me, a vote in favor is not just an implied endorsement, it is an absolute endorsement suggesting that the city is in favor of the property, the development, and the nature of how it's being developed. And for that reason, I'm looking for alternatives, and I think that the proper alternative is to not make any commitments on behalf of the community saying that this is a good idea. And I think that tabling this would provide that option. It offers no harm to the developer who can proceed with his project without the implied or real endorsement of the city, but at the same time without any negative commentary as well. So that is my reason and my concerns for the city and the community as a whole, and that's why my interests are such.
I think what we've all experienced here is democracy in action. I think all of us who sit on this city council have made a firm commitment to making sure that we support the people and their wishes, and particularly that we stop the overdevelopment, and that we do it in places where it makes sense. Having said that, I applaud all of my council members for their positions and for their true spirit and belief, because that's what it's truly about. It's about being able to share what you believe and how you feel. Having said that, there being no further discussion, call for the vote. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
What's the vote count? I'm sorry. 5-2?
Yeah.
Okay. 5-2. 5-2. Yes, the mayor. Fifth vote.
So Mayor, you voted for it, right?
Yes, he did.
Thank you, Henri.
I asked the number to vote.
Moving along with the agenda. Okay, we now move on to item, it's okay. We move on to item B, which is the South Lake detailed site plan.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. For the record, Frank Stevens of the City Planning Staff to review with you DSP 19024, which is an application for umbrella architecture for the residential dwelling units. This is attachment 1 in your report, which shows the location of the project. Central Avenue is to the north, 301 is to the east, and which is to the right, and to the south is the Collington Center. The residential units approved in DSP 19023 are the subject of this particular DSP with respect to their architecture. I'll just run through these briefly, but we begin our discussion of the detached single-family dwellings on page 4 of our report. And attachments 4 through 16 show samples of the detached single-family dwellings. There are 27 different models, each with at least 4 different elevations. 4 of those 27 will be ranch models, and they include the one on the screen, the Alperti Ranch, and the Ashbrook, and there will be 2 others shortly. There are also 23 two-story models. Each model will have at least a two-car attached garage with an option in some cases for a third-car garage. The total finished areas range between 1,421 square feet to 4,290 square feet. This is the third ranch model that's offered in this development. It's attachment 7. There is one more that we'll be getting to shortly, and it's this particular one. This model is offered as a two-story and as a ranch model. And this is the largest model offered this Stratford Hall at, like I said, 4,290 square feet. The next few slides 17A to 22, are for the townhouses that are proposed. Our discussion regarding those begins on page 41 of our report. And there are 8 models that are offered by 2 different builders. The widths of these are 16 feet, 20 feet, or 24 feet. This is the Clarendon 3-story. This is the front. This is a 16-foot wide unit with a 1-car attached garage, rear entry attached garage. The base finish area of the townhouses range from 1,689 square feet, which is this particular model here, to 2,824 feet, which is the urban, which we'll show you shortly. This is a 24-foot wide unit, the Grove. The Strauss D, it's a front-loaded 1-car garage, and that's the rear of these particular units. This is a 20-foot wide unit, Strauss E, and the back is a 2-car garage. This is the urban unit. Like I said, it's a little over 2,800 square feet. And then lastly, the Waverly, which are also 24-foot wide units. The 2/2 units we reviewed at the public hearing on December 2nd. We've included attachments in our report 23A to 23E, and our discussion regarding those begins on page 44 of our report. There are 2 models, the Matisse and the Picasso. There are 10 elevations of each model. Both models have a 1-car rear entry garage, and the finished areas of these range from 1,600 square feet to about 2,638 square feet. We're recommending approval of this DSP with the conditions noted in our report on pages 45 to 50. We have one revision to condition 3 regarding the 2/2 dwelling units and the dealing with the noise levels in the 2/2 units that would be impacted by a review prior to building permit by a licensed acoustical engineer, and the recommended mitigation to reduce the interior noise levels to the required level. With that change, we recommend approval of DSP 19024. Thank you.
Do we need to hear anything specifically from the developers on this particular
Yes, sir.
site approval?
Good afternoon again, Arthur Horn, Law Office of Shipping Horn, here on behalf of the applicant. When I turned around, I realized we have 2 other members of our team here. I didn't mention them before. It's the same team as the previous application, but from Chesapeake, we also have Mr. Jamie Atkinson, and also from Rogers, we have Mr. Charlie Howe. Who's here? Oh, I'm sorry, for the NA Micro Companies, we have Julian Curry is here with us as well. The one thing that I wanted to say about this umbrella architecture, it shows there's an awful lot of models that they have to choose from, and that we make sure that this will provide an option for just about any purchaser. And it's been shown that the more variety that you have, the better you have a chance of selling these things pretty fast. And as I mentioned the last time we had, as was mentioned, there are several ranch options that will be something that the seniors would like to see and have. And I think we didn't have that in the original plan, but we have that in there now, indicating that we hope to be able to have South Lake be a stay-in-place community. Once you're here, if you originally buy perhaps a townhome or a condo, that you might move to a single-family home later, or maybe even to one of those ranch if you're a senior. So again, this architecture is pretty much the same architecture that we provided. Is what NV and Ryan offers. Again, we are always looking to try to make things better. This is the beginning. It is not the end. You talk about how things change. There may be some additional architecture that comes down the line that people say, well, I really like the way they've done it here or there. We're certainly open to come back in and provide that to this city council and to the planning board and to the council, the district council. So this is just the beginning of what we have to offer. Thank you.
Any questions? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacqueline Grizzetti? We'll grant her one moment. She seems to have stepped right outside the door. It's okay.
All right, so I apologize. We wanted to make a comment again as we look at the facade and the design that's being planned for South Lake, that we remain concerned that this is inconsistent with the look of most of the housing that is available right now adjacent to the property. Once again, I want to point out that the property that is adjacent to here is called the rural tier of Prince George's County. It has been protected because of the forestry. It has been protected because of its adjacency to the Patuxent, that is part of a Chesapeake community, and we are deeply concerned that as we build in this look and we build in more destruction of trees, that we are being inconsistent with that. Now, I'm not just a tree hugger, although I proudly am one, but let me talk to you economically about why that is not good for Prince George's County or the city of Bowie. I'm a friend of the South Bowie Library. The South Bowie Library receives 20,000 visitors a month, which is an astounding number, if I can trust the data that they shared with us at our last meeting. That number is Prince George's citizens, but a lot of that number are also people who are drawn into our county from Davidsonville, from Lothian, from Deal, from QUORUM, and all of that adjacency. These are people who like the look, who like the services, who like the way the county is there. It's like killing, and I don't mean to sound elitist, but it's like killing the goose that laid the golden egg. This is the part of Prince George's County that even through the Great Recession did not go underwater, where housing values remain high, where the property taxes that you collect off those homes are high, and where, again, as we build this, we run the risk of downgrading those properties. So I was asked again to make sure that you don't forget that. For my last minute, just want to quickly comment on the legal opinion that was given. If I understood what she said that you are not supposed to make any recommendations that are inconsistent with the general direction that started with Carrington. There are inconsistencies with that general direction. One of them, you talked about being able to work with citizens. My understanding, again, and I have a letter that states it, is there is supposed to be a citizens advisory board associated with this project that is allowed to give direct commentary as it goes along. That is not present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Could they respond to her? Like, I'm curious because I want to know the clarification. Could they respond? I'd like to know the clarification.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you said later?
When we get to the...
I see. Okay, cool.
Okay, and that's all we have, correct? That's it. Okay, so we pass it. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Could you please respond to her comments? Like, she said there was no advisory board. I could have sworn that there was one. So if that's the case, could you possibly work on getting that to the community? Because I'm not sure why there's a discrepancy of why people think there isn't one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just briefly to respond to Councilwoman's question regarding community outreach. I mean, I think it's pretty clear we've been very open and active in the public for these last 20 years that we've been working on the project. Most recently, at the Councilwoman's request, we had a second public stakeholder meeting in January. We went above and beyond the regular notice process that the city staff follows, and we actually also sent the notice out to our contact list for everybody who's got a business or an address in Bowie. And I think we got very good feedback and very good turnout at that event. So we have been, over the years, doing our best to keep everybody informed on the status of the project. I guess also briefly to respond to Ms. Grisette's comments about just the housing design. This is one of many slides is up there on the screen, but that slide, I think, is almost like a photograph of a project that is actually across the street from South Lake, which would be Hall Station. It's the home of the South Bowie Library that she mentioned. That was one of our development projects, the Michael Companies. I ran that project, and I was happy to do it. We're still proud of it. It's a beautiful project. We're proud of the South Bowie Library. We oversaw construction of that library for the county at no charge to the taxpayers, and I agree, it turned out to be a beautiful facility. And I think, if anything, we're doing great things to enhance what we started at Hall Station with the South Lake project. And just to echo what Arthur said before, we are right now showing architecture that's at the top of the line for both NVR and Ryan Homes. We will continue to push the builders to, I guess, challenge themselves to offer even better options and better quality finishes and things of that nature as the project progresses. Because like I said before, we always like to try to raise the bar and improve things, not just for our project, but for the neighborhood at large.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question
Sure.
because I'm not sure I heard the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a citizens advisory board?
Ms. Grisette's referring to something called the Carrington Advisory Committee. That is a board that's established by the district council. When the committee has been established by the district council and the meetings were held, we were usually held at our office. Ms. Grisette attended a few of them. And we are always happy to participate in whatever forum we need to.
So you don't have one specifically, like not you per se, but the actual developer?
Well, I would say we are here tonight as part of our community outreach. We are working on a website that will serve as an actively updated current reference point for the
That's not
project.
answering my question.
We don't have a separate community board that we've created, no.
Okay, so can you establish one?
It already exists.
No, she's
It's not being called.
she's
Let's-
misremembering.
City Attorney?
I mean, when,
I'm sorry, it wasn't done.
I just don't.
I'd like to understand the answer because of
sure. So again,
Answer, I'd like to
not to converse with Ms. Grisette, I'm addressing you. all,
Right, no,
but she's referring again to the Carrington Advisory Committee. It's a specific provision that was established by the district council, is a body of the district council. And again, it has not been very active recently, but whenever it was established, whenever meetings were called, we host the meetings and we have the meetings. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it might be something worth bringing up with Mr. Turner.
Yes, great, but my specific question is, can you, as in the developer, look at establishing one, is what I'm asking.
Well, we believe that as part of our outreach.
It's a yes or no?
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyway. Yeah. Councilwoman, you good? Okay, good. All right, no other questions. Thank you.
Nice try. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve DSP 19024.
And I'd like to second that.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Aye. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you.
Moving on to new business, we adjusted the agenda such that item C, recognition of former Mayor G. Frederick Robinson, by Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a number of individuals who spoke tonight in support of my asking council to move to renaming Excalibur Road to Mayor Frederick Robertson Road, or Way, whichever it works on the signage. And also recognizing April 18th, which is former Mayor Fred Robertson's birthday, as officially Fred Robertson Day from this point and forward. And I want to turn it over to our colleague, Councilperson Ingrid Harrison, for a comment.
Thank you, Henri. I just wanted to say that G. Frederick Robinson, as Bowie's longest standing or sitting mayor, deserves to be recognized and honored certainly in this way. The city grew tremendously during his tenure and he served honorably. I wholeheartedly support the recognition as his dedication, commitment, and selfless service is greatly appreciated, and I totally support the honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And again, I asked if the council would support this in recognition of former Mayor Fred Robertson, renaming Excalibur Road in recognition of him, as well as directing city staff to moving forward with naming April 18th, 2020, and from that point forward, as always, recognizing as Fred Robertson Day. And I also, would like, if it's possible, that staff could prepare such signage on or around for a ceremony to occur on or around the 18th of April to recognize his birthday as well. And if I could get the council to support that. Thank you, Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, let me start by saying that I agree with both of my colleagues' sentiments about Mayor Fred Robinson. It can't go unnoticed what he's done for the city of Bowie and how tremendous he has been in making us the city that we are today. However, with that being said, and I don't want my comments to be reflected as in towards him, more so questions just about the logistics of how this will work, and if there's is there a paper or a resolution attached to this? Logistically, how do we make this happen if there is no actual physical paper to this? So that's my first question to city staff. The second question I'd like to have addressed is, what would the impact be? Will this be a ceremonial signage? Will we have Excalibur still stay as Excalibur Road, but maybe a small sign under it that says Fred Robinson Way? What does that look like, and what does that impact if it's the reverse way and we're actually changing the street? So if we can comment on those two things, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I wanted to answer one part of that for the Mayor Pro Tem Boafo. This isn't something that I want to do ceremonially. I want to make it permanent, and my goal is to rename the street, removing Excalibur completely, and just the portion of Excalibur from City Hall to the traffic light. So it's just a block, and there are no other addresses on this block other than City Hall that will be impacted by this change. And I'm sorry, and now staff.
And just point of clarification, can you also address what that impact would be, if there is any impact? I mean, I don't know if there will be on changing the name.
Well, changing the name of the street itself, logistically, is not big of a problem. The biggest issue would be, for us, would be stationary, changing our address with our contractors, and that could be done over time. I mean, it's been done before, but that would be the impact. Maybe some cost having our stationery redone, but that would be it. We've been discussing this with Councilman Gardner for a while. We've already talked with Prince George's County, who would control the addresses and has control over whether we can do this or not, and they're prepared to execute it if we're willing to deal with the address change, because it would just end up right now just being us, this building.
I think at this point, in fairness, it would probably be best if we had the city staff take a look at what it would require to do that. Is it possible for you to do that and give us some feedback?
Well, we've already taken a look at it. We can put something in writing and send it out to the council, talking about the impact of it all, if you like. I mean, I can just have it put to writing. We had some discussions about it.
Could you just let us know if you have the information? I don't want details. If this is going to be an extreme cost, which I doubt it is, that's all I want to know.
Well,
other than that, I'm not opposed
well, we
to
just
doing
have
this.
to take the coordination that we've done and put it in on paper and send it to you, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move to approve it now. I mean, because it's minimum cost associated, and we're in the time.
Quick question.
Okay. Have them put it in writing for us and let us go from there. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. All right. Well, if you could, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, quick question. What were we actually naming it to? Because as long as he was mayor, he went by G. Fred Robinson. So isn't that what we want? No, but actually, isn't that what we want to stick with?
Well, it would be my opinion that we would consult with the former mayor, the retired Mayor Robertson, and asking him if he would prefer G. Fred Robertson, Fred Robertson.
Okay. That being the case, that's another good reason to get some stuff in writing then, so that our motion can accurately reflect what we're actually naming the street to.
Well, hold on one second. Pardon me. City Manager Lott, you.
Well, there are some limits to what we can put on the sign.
Yeah.
But we know for sure that it could be, we could use G. Fred Robinson Way or Fred Robinson Way. The mayor, and I don't think they do that, so they rejected that. But we could name the street G. Fred Robinson Way or Fred Robinson Way or Road if we were so inclined right now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Can we move to approve the April 19th date to be Bowie, to be Fred Robinson Day? And April 18th. Apologies there. And then can we also, I'd also like to move to table the naming of the street until we get that information to our next meeting.
It's been moved in properly session. Discussion?
The city attorney had to, Alyssa wanted to make a comment.
No, the question was raised as to whether or not those are two motions that can be made together.
Yeah, I think it's two motions, right?
So you could, but then you run the risk that the motion gets voted down because one or the other half of it is.
Yeah.
So that's why
I'm just gonna
join them together.
Yeah, I'll keep it as one.
Put it all, why don't we?
How about this?
I think what we'd like to do at this point is simply, I know you've made a motion and it's been properly second, so we need to look at either voting that down or amending
You're gonna have to vote that all the way through. Let that one, see if that one goes through or dies.
He can amend the motion.
Okay.
You can.
He can amend his,
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
And then he would have to accept.
Okay, go ahead.
what?
I don't have any intention of amending the motion because I'm not sure what the discussion was, so
All right.
we can just shut it down if we want to.
All right, call for the question. It's been moved and properly second that, could you read that back to me, City Clerk?
As far as I could get, is Councilmember Boffo made a motion to approve April 18th as Fred Robinson Day and to table the discussion of the street naming to a future meeting.
Correct. You got it.
Any discussion? I will add one thing, that I am a little concerned about not having had many citizens not knowing exactly what we were doing tonight. Though I agree with many who came forward. Don't take that out of context. But I am a little concerned about us having not had them have an opportunity to opine the entire city, because it wasn't clearly defined what we were trying to do. So that's just my concern when we move forward. Okay? All right, any further discussion?
That doesn't pass. That motion didn't pass. I mean, we didn't finalize it. We didn't vote on it. Adrian introduced it, the staff seconded it, and we didn't vote on it.
Right, that's what I was about to do. That was my discussion on it. And that's what I'm saying, I'm calling for the vote now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
We're opposed. The four of us are opposed to that.
I'm going to need to do roll calls for these votes because I'm getting this, so I need a roll call.
you.
Councilmember Stev?
Yes.
Councilmember Wolfley?
It's two separate motions the way that.
No, it's one motion.
One motion.
There's one motion. The motion was to approve April 18th as Fred Robinson Day and to move the discussion of the street renaming to a future meeting.
I want to do it all.
Vote aye.
I want to do it all now, just be done with this. Okay, so
Okay. Well,
this is prolonged. We have a.
can we take a roll call
We were in the
vote?
midst of a vote.
Yeah.
Hold.
Let's
Okay, you
allow her
calling
to
for-
get the roll call and
Yeah.
get that out of the way.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, someone needs to turn off the mic. Okay, so Councilmember Estev? Aye. You're aye. Councilmember Wolfley? Aye. Councilmember
Aye.
Walpole? Mayor Robinson?
No.
I'm sorry. Mayor Adams? Sorry.
The ghost of mayor's past.
This is a yes.
Okay, Mayor Adams?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Gardner?
to support April 18th as Mayor Robertson Day, yes.
That's not the motion.
You got to vote on the whole thing. That's
It's a yes or a no for
To
it.
support all of it, both, yes.
That's,
Okay, I'm not.
So you understand, you will be voting for the day and tabling the naming of the...
No, I don't want to table this. No, I do not want to table
But you just
I'm
said yes, your vote, yes or no.
My vote is no. I don't want to table this, so if we have other work to do. We can settle this tonight and move along.
okay.
We're getting ready to have the budget, guys.
Councilmember Ndebumabo? Okay. So it passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2.
All right.
Okay.
And I'm just going
Motion
to, for the record, I voted aye because I'd like to just have the information in writing, so we can just kind of have everything outlined regarding what Councilmember Waffle mentioned.
If what we can do is we can have the staff or Maddie commit this to a document and then put it on the next agenda if that you all are so
Okay.
inclined.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Fine.
All right, moving on. Item B, the countywide sectional, well,
No.
let's push back to the update of the coronavirus.
Coronavirus. All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Before I hand over to our Emergency Management Director, I'd like to say a few things. It should be noted that the residents of Bowie are taxed and pay taxes with the Prince George's County and the state of Maryland to provide public health services. It is the intent of staff, unless otherwise given other direction, to cooperate with and support Prince George's County efforts and the state of Maryland's efforts when a pandemic situation arises. Earlier, I'd like to, you might know that the public health, of course, is not one of our services, nor is it one of our missions. However, we can become that if the council directs us that way and we get the appropriate budget line item. To that end, we are prepared to invite Dr. Carter or his representative, and Dr. Carter is the chief of the Prince George's County Health Department, to speak with the council at either the 16th or April 6th, if that would be helpful. But what I'd like to do right now is allow Mr. Lee Cornwall, who is our Director of Emergency Management, which is our major connection to this potential pandemic and other emergencies as set up by the council in previous years, to discuss the response plan that I sent to you all on February 27th. And then afterwards, we're prepared to answer any questions associated with the city's readiness or ability to cooperate and support the county and the state's public health issues. Mr. Cornwall.
I think I'd like to make a comment initially as well. And I think one of the things that I think as the largest city in Prince George's County, that we need to be very proactive for what we're trying to do potentially with a pandemic. As many of our council members may have seen, one of the things I asked is that we prepare our own emergency preparedness for this pandemic in conjunction with the county as well. But as we've talked about, and as you may have seen, I would really like to see us, and we'll talk about that maybe even further, where we make sure that we include a budget where we talk about all those items that we may need as a city because of our size, and to make sure that we coordinate and that we have specific points of contact and that we identify all that as we move forward with the county, but also that we be prepared here within the city, including what we do with the Bowie Health Center and other things. So as we move forward, I do look forward to us preparing a true plan for ourselves.
Okay.
And
we
so,
do have an emergency action plan, and we are prepared to tell the council what our plan is whenever we have an opportunity.
Oh, I'm just saying, because what we initially received was not acceptable as a plan.
Well, I disagree with that. but
Mr. Mayor,
we're-
pardon me, Mr. Mayor.
That's your prerogative.
Certainly is.
But as a city council, we'll discuss what our expectations are.
I'm willing.
And so if we could, we can move right on. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Mr. Mayor, we're prepared to, just for the record.
Mr.
Are you not?
City Manager, I didn't recognize you.
All right,
So we can move forward. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I respectfully disagree with you, and I think the city manager should be allowed to speak. Please speak. We all have a vote here. We have an equal
Excuse me,
number of votes.
Councilwoman, you weren't recognized either. We have to have a. we
I
don't wanna go
recognize,
back
and I'm on
forth.
the city council, and I have the same number of votes. I have
I
one
know, but
vote, just like you
there is a
do.
protocol, and you know that.
I
for Robert's Rules
understand,
of
but I'd
Order.
like to hear what the city
Please,
manager
my
has
only
to say.
point is that the mayor, as I asked him, I don't want to go back and forth with our city manager. I just want him to present his plan. We disagree, but we can move forward. There's
I
nothing negative
understand, but
we need to do.
I'm not hearing his perspective. So I really would like to hear his perspective, if that's okay.
What did he not say that you didn't hear?
I think he had something else to add.
Staff is not presented yet.
And that's why I was waiting for staff to present.
Mr. Mayor, I am.
He's staff. He's.
Well,
Let me say this. One thing. We are prepared to take direction from the council as a whole on how we deal with this and any other emergency situation. So if the council believes that the plan that we have set forward is not acceptable, we'll modify it. And also, one of the reasons why we have been at arm's length is because this simply isn't our mission, public health, but emergency management is. Mr. Cornwell, please go through the plan that we presented to the council.
did that answer your question? Councilwoman?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you an update and our actions and plans for the current coronavirus issue. With me tonight is our Emergency Management Specialist, Stephanie Robinson, and together we will provide you what the current situation is, and she will do that. After she provides you what the current situation is, then I'll go into some detail about our responsibilities, what our plans are, and how we plan to respond to the issue of the coronavirus. Stephanie?
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. My name is Stephanie Robinson. I'm going to give you a quick update on what's currently going on with the coronavirus across the globe. It's been designated as COVID-19, and it is a novel coronavirus that originated in China in December, and they believe it originated from bats. The coronavirus is responsible for the sudden acute respiratory syndrome, the Middle East respiratory syndrome, as well as the common cold. How it spreads is person to person via droplets from a sneeze or cough. There's a small possibility that you can pick it up from an infected surface if somebody rubs their nose and touches their chair. And it's most contagious when the patient is the sickest. The possibility of infection without there is the possibility of infection without visible symptoms, but it's not thought to be the main way that it spreads. Symptoms of it include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. And the CDC believes that the symptoms could appear as few as 2 days before your onset of symptoms, but as long as 14 days. The treatment right now, there is no antiviral. It is a new virus. Labs are working to develop one. There's a lot of money being poured into it right now. Traditional home remedies, if you do come down with it, such as rest and liquids, and separate yourself from your family members. If you have severe symptoms, if you do come down with the coronavirus, you need to call your primary care provider or your local hospital and confer with them first before going anywhere. Prevention is going to be our biggest asset in this event. There are no vaccines available at this time, and this is because it is a new disease. The body has no natural defenses against it. So we will practice traditional flu prevention techniques. This includes avoiding close contact with sick people, avoid touching your face, stay home when you are sick, and use cough etiquette. So cough into your elbow, not your hand, and follow CDC recommendations when it comes to the face mask. The face mask only protects other people if you are sick. It does not protect me somebody else is sick. You want to wash your hands correctly. That is 20 seconds. If you sing happy birthday twice, you want to do 20 seconds with warm water and lots of soap. And then you want to clean surfaces frequently with disinfectant, so just keep cleaning. Just to give you a brief update on what's going on as of today, the total cases in the United States now number 89. 43 originated inside the United States, 45 originated from the cruise ship out of Japan, and then the China province itself. What you've been seeing in the news is Washington State, and cases have grown there with 18 confirmed positive today and 6 deaths. 5 of those deaths are localized at a nursing home that is impacted, and 1 is outside. They have confirmed cases in Washington, New York, California, Illinois, Florida, and Rhode Island. Washington and Florida have both declared states of emergency. The reasoning they do this is not due to the severity of the illness, but rather it opens up additional funds and resources. If you want to get more information about this, I highly recommend going simply to your emergency management agencies, the state level, or your local agencies, but your primary point of contact is going to be the health departments. The CDC is running it. This Maryland State Department of Health is doing awesome, and Prince George's County is going to be our primary contact. PG County has designated coronavirus treatment centers. This is where they're going to deal with this originally, at Holy Cross, Southern Maryland in Clinton, and the Anne Arundel Medical Center down in Annapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mr. Mayor and Council, as the city manager has explained, the statutory responsibility for response and handling of any health emergency in the state of Maryland is designated through the Maryland Department of Health. And then they push it down through the local health department. So they have statutory responsibility to respond to, plan for, prepare for all health-related emergencies. I want to make it clear, though, that there is not currently a pandemic, and in the state, no health-related emergency is in effect at this present time. We are closely watching this situation. The Maryland Department of Health and through Prince George's County has a fantastic surveillance program which is going on presently. There are no confirmed cases within the state of Maryland and no confirmed cases within the DMV. There have been 5 people tested in the state of Maryland. 3 have tested negative, 2 are awaiting results. Again, the CDC has stated that the risk of contracting the coronavirus is very low. Okay. Now, what have we done, and what are we going to do? I think we have been very proactive with what we have done so far, given the fact that the Maryland Health Department and Prince George's County Health Department is currently updating and developing their own strategic plan. It has not been completed yet. We are in constant communication with them, and the goal right now is to provide preventive care, which is the hand washing, the avoiding contact with sick people, staying further than 6 feet away. There are no restrictions to domestic travel whatsoever. There are some restrictions towards out-of-country travel. And you should check with the Department of State's website for travel outside of the United States. Specifically, Italy, China, South Korea, and Japan are problem areas for travel to those countries. They are definitely requesting that you do not travel to those countries if you can help it. We are providing information, preventive information on our website through social media, Facebook, Twitter, and we have also produced a video, an information video, which is now playing on our cable channel. We have plans of this week of updating that video and producing another video that will come out probably the end of this week. Yesterday we put out a memorandum to all city staff with information on the coronavirus and tips on how they can prevent the spread, how they can protect their family, which includes if you are sick, stay home. That is our main goal. Again, as Stephanie said, you've seen a lot of people in the communities wearing masks. The CDC has strongly come out and said, do not wear a mask. It serves no purpose because the spread of the coronavirus is through droplets from your breath. The mask only covers your mouth and nose, so you can still get the droplets on your hands. After you take your mask off, you can rub your face. It can get into your eyes. The virus can get through your eyes, and the mask does not cover that. So that's the kind of information that we are putting out. We are also putting out preparations information of what you can do to prepare in case there is a healthcare emergency that is declared within the state. And those are such things as making sure that you have your non-prescriptive medications in your house and prepare for people in your residence to get sick. Have food and water for approximately 2 weeks because once you get this flu, it's basically a flu. The only difference between the coronavirus and your normal everyday flu is this one does not have a vaccination as of yet. And we're about a year away from that, okay? So this issue is going to be with us for a while. I will tell you that the number of cases being identified daily is leveling off. It is going up every day. However, the amount of people that are recovering from this illness is sharply rising. So the amount of cases daily that are active, that people are active, have this coronavirus, is actually decreasing as the level of new cases levels off and the amount of people that have contracted the virus are recovering. However, in a pandemic situation, there are highs and lows to it. It'll go down and then it'll rise again. So we need to expect that and prepare for in the future. Just because we may see a decrease in the very near future does not mean that it's not going to rebound, and it probably will, because that's been the history of most pandemics. If there is a health care emergency that is declared, that we go from prevention, individual prevention from person to person spread, to trying to combat community spread. There has been no community spread on this side of the United States. They are indicating that the situation in Washington, in Kings County, Washington, may be a community spread. They're still trying to get information on that. But once a declaration is declared for a health emergency, then we go into try coordinating with the local health departments for non-pharmaceutical interventions. And that will include isolation, quarantine of people, and then social distancing. Social distancing is something that we can definitely take care of and have the authority to do within the city. And those things include considering counseling of public events, meetings and gatherings, as well as having staff work from home when we have sick staff. We are monitoring the conditions within the city. We are in touch with our staff, and we're trying to come up with a plan to determine how many people are calling in sick daily, to determine if we have to implement our continuity of operations plan. During any kind of emergency, one of the main missions of the city government is to maintain essential functions to our citizens. So if there is an emergency, we will activate our continuity of operations plan to ensure that mission essential functions within city government are continued. So those are the types of things that we're trying to do and are doing. We are currently reviewing the Prince George's County Health Department Pandemic Preparedness Plan. Again, our responsibility in that plan is to assist and collaborate with the county and coordinate our available resources so we can properly respond to the needs that may occur from this pandemic. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned the Bowie Health Center. That comes under the purview of the University of Maryland medical systems. As you know, they are well prepared for any types of these emergencies. However, the Bowie Health System, the Bowie Health Center, is not one of the treatment centers that's been designated by MIMS, which is the Maryland Institute of Emergency Medical Services, and the Maryland Department of Health. And again, those, for your recollection, is Holy Cross in Bethesda, Southern Maryland in Clinton, and Anne Arundel Medical Center are the 3 hospitals in our area that would treat patients that contract the coronavirus. Again, we are in constant conference calls with the local health department and the state, which will start this week. Strategic plans are being made, and they will be made available to us, and we will incorporate those plans within our efforts to respond to this coronavirus issue. So we're prepared to take any questions and any directions that you might have. Thank you.
I really appreciate that, because I think you did answer several of the questions I had. So you are in close communication with them, and you are coordinating a plan to work with them as we move forward if something should happen, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, good. And one of the reasons I brought up about the Bowie Health Center and other things is because I am on the board of Luminous Health. I'm on the board of Doctors Hospital. I'm on the board of the Council of Governments. And one of the things we talked about is making sure that people understand where they should go. Because what you don't want people going somewhere where they can't handle it and causing even more problems. So I'm really happy to hear that you are working in consultation with the county and the state and making sure that we have a preparedness plan that will specifically identify what needs to be done, who the points of contact are, and those things. So thank you so very much.
Yes, sir. Just to reiterate, currently the goal is to provide consistent, coordinated information to the public, and making sure that all agencies and all departments that respond to this issue are providing the same message. So with our communications officer, Una Cooper, we are definitely doing that and providing that information to our citizens.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Any questions? Councilwoman Roxy?
Yeah, you spoke a little bit about city employees. So what measures are you taking from a technical perspective, just in case people, like, just hypothetically speaking, if someone does get sick or people do, call out from work, what measures are you taking to allow remote working or allow them to be able to still be included in their daily job duties?
Well, it hasn't risen to that level yet. We are not seeing people that are calling in sick in an abnormal rate. We're following that. We have provided information to all of our staff of how to protect yourselves, including washing your hands, using alcohol-based hand sanitizers, covering your coughs, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, and cleaning and disinfecting your work areas on a constant and regular schedule, and avoiding contact with any people that may be sick. We're going to provide, we're going to look into providing the alcohol-based sanitizers and put them around all work areas. We also have talked about, and we'll probably put up signs in all of our restrooms reminding all of our staff to wash their hands and take those precautions.
Let me follow up. As somebody who works in technology, I'd like to see a plan, like this included in your plan. I understand doing the preventative measures so people don't get sick, but should it come to it, being proactive, what measures are we going to take as a city to see that people are still able to do their job from home, should they not be able to come to work?
I'll chime in on that one. Well, we plan we already have the capability for people to go into Office 365 and work from home. That currently exists. I can do it, all our staff can do it.
Right.
But we're going to measure that on a case-by-case basis, depending on who their employee is, because some employees in the city, they simply have to come to work. And if they can't, then they'll have to be out on sick leave or personal time. But we will measure those who can work from home if the situation arises on a case-by-case basis between the city, the department directors and myself as to whether that person's essential and we have to have them working. Of course, quarantine, some people in quarantine are otherwise able-bodied, and we'll have to consider that too. And of course, some who are quarantined are sick and they couldn't work. So, but we have the capacity, already have the technical capacity to do that now.
Right, but what I'm saying is to be proactive. So should it come to that and people do get sick and someone cannot come to work, can we just make sure that we are prepared, and not in the sense of having the availability, but being ready to articulate, train, or educate staff on what that should look like, should it ever come to that? Like, I understand that we're being very reactive, but I just want to make sure that we're being extremely proactive, because I don't know that any one of us were sitting here 3 months ago and knew that coronavirus was going to become a thing, but it is here now. So I just want to make sure that we're being proactive on all fronts, whether that's from a plan perspective, whether that's coordinating with PG County, which sounds like we're already doing that, which is great, but from a technical perspective and making sure that the employees of the city of Bowie are able to fully participate and do their work and not just be subject to taking off of work, whether they're essential or not.
We believe that we are being proactive in that respect and that we have the capacity, and we are discussing the situation amongst the staff leaders, and we are prepared to have employees work from home when it's possible. And some people can't, like police and sanitation guys, but our planners and some of our IT workers, we're prepared to do that if the situation arises.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone? Hey, thank you again. We appreciate all you're doing to keep our city safe.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, before we go away, I want to make sure I ask this question. Is there any direction from the City Council for us to modify our course of action right now? That's the question. I want to make sure I ask that. Okay.
Can I
Go ahead.
say something?
I would particularly, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First, I want to thank staff for putting this together tonight and those council who actually brought this forward, because this information is important. One of the things that I personally don't want to see is that we put out any misinformation or putting out information that is contradictory to that of the state or the county, and not getting into the state or county's way and letting them do their job, and not creating any sort of mass hysteria within the city of Bowie. That's one thing. And the other thing is, the city of Bowie does not have a health department. So, the residents here in the city actually pay your tax dollars to the county and to the state to provide those services. So it would be asinine, basically, to duplicate those efforts. I don't want to have the residents spending $1 here and then spending $1 here and here and here, all for the same product and services. So I think during this time period of this virus and that's epidemic that's going throughout the nation, that it's my opinion that residents or citizens should reflect and listen to the health providers, the medical providers, and I think it's my role as an elected official to get out of your way and letting you guys do your job, and that's it. But I thank you for providing that information tonight and that update. I'm certain that the residents here in the city of Bowie would definitely appreciate it. And I just want to be clear that I don't want to see duplication of effort and spending any resources that could be dedicated to something else. That's just my opinion. Thank you all. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Well, again, thank you. And I think the one thing we do need to continue to do, though, and I don't consider it I disagree with you on duplication of efforts. There are things that go on within the city that we need to be proactive about. What we do with the employees here, about how whether or not we set aside funds for a budget to make sure to take care of any issues that we may come. I think that's being proactive. I don't think in any way are we talking about stepping in and trying to be the health officials, but in how we manage the city and how we are proactive within the city bounds and within what we need to get done. I think we just simply need to be proactive. Councilwoman?
I just want to add, I agree with you both in terms of not duplicating efforts, but I also think that it's very important as a city that we do have a plan that's specific to the city of Bowie, because at the end of the day, yes, I understand the state of Maryland has an obligation to the state of Maryland, but we are the elected officials in the city of Bowie, and our responsibility is to make sure that our residents are taken care of at all times, no matter what the cost is. So if that means that it's us getting a plan from the state of Maryland or working with them and making that specific to Bowie and being proactive and tailoring that to see, like, if something were to happen, what is the estimated cost that's going to cost us, or what do those specifics look like? I don't find that being too much to ask for. So that is, I know that you already said you're working on it. I just want to state it, since this is recorded and people are here, that is something that I'd like to see going forward as an actual concrete plan. Whether you copy that from the state of Maryland and tailor it to Bowie, is, by all means, do what you have to do. But I just want to make it known that that's what I'd like to see.
And I think our staff has done a good job of saying how they will now coordinate and make sure that we have a plan for the city that's tailored from what we get from the state and what we get from the county. So thank you so much.
Councilwoman,
I just want to start off by saying, Leah and Stephanie, I thank you guys for your work that you guys are doing on this issue and other issues surrounding emergency management in our city. Our city has been really safe in that regard, and you guys provide at least the council with regular updates on things. So I want to publicly thank you for the work you guys are doing on this issue, but other issues as well. I kind of echo the sentiments of Councilman Henry Gardner here, in the sense that we will, in the coming days, we have not reached epidemic level. We have not reached mass hysteria in any regard. In coming days, we'll hear from the governor, we'll hear from the state, and you must also understand that they are in session. The governor can't just do anything. It's not like he's, they're in session till April, so he has to have a plan with the speaker and the Senate president. So we will wait for that, and it sounds like you guys will be in conjunction with them and with Prince George's County and our health department over there. So I thank you guys for the work you guys are doing on that end.
I have one thing. I also want to say thank you very much for your very proactive approach. I think that you have been proactive, and I appreciate the city manager's plan that he put forward to the council in writing, and I thought it addressed much of what you said here tonight, and it's not just what you're saying tonight, but what you said previously. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continued efforts and the great work that you all are doing. Thank you.
Councilman Dufour.
Thank you, and I too want to thank staff for all the work that's been done on this. I know there's a lot of concern going around on this subject. The information I've already shared with my constituents already. I've already gotten positive feedback and appreciation for that, and I would direct people who are watching to go ahead and go to the city's website and take a look at the page there. It continues to evolve as the circumstances change. I do want to emphasize that we are, of course, not your health care provider. So please, if you get a sniffle and you're wondering, please immediately feel free to call up your doctor and head in. And if you are contagious, please stay away. Don't come into the office. Don't come here. Don't come tell us about it. But in all seriousness, it is a significant issue, and sharing the information, I think, is the most important thing we can do, and I appreciate the proactive nature of the work we've done so far. I know we have the COOP plan, and I know we have your good offices as well that we'll rely upon to keep the city going and providing those critical services. I am confident we'll get through, so I thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone? All right, thank you again very much. Moving forward, countywide sectional map amendment. City planning staff will now review the proposed countywide sectional map amendment as it pertains to the Bowie area.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Joe Meinert, Planning Director. I'm here tonight to provide an informational update to the Council concerning the countywide sectional map amendment, or what's called the CMA. This is a countywide zoning step that will be undertaken by the Prince George's County Council, and there is a joint public hearing that's coming up on March 23rd at 7 p.m. at Prince George's Community College, and that is the joint public hearing of the Planning Board and the Prince George's County Council. About a month ago, there was a public notice letter that was mailed to residents throughout the county. Every property owner in the county received a letter from the county advertising the public hearing that I just mentioned and discussing the fact that zoning of all properties in Prince George's County will change as a result of this CMA. The letter also included some specific language which the county is required to put into this type of letter that says that when the zoning changes, properties their tax assessment may be affected by a rezoning. That caused a number of people to contact the planning department asking questions about what may occur on their property as a result of the countywide map amendment. What we wanted to do tonight is just brief the council on what the purpose of this amendment is, and simply it is a transition from the current zones that exist now to the zoning ordinance rewrite zones. In 2018, the county council, after about a 3 or 4 year effort, approved a new zoning ordinance for Prince George's County, but that ordinance has not taken effect yet. It was purposely delayed. The effective date was delayed until the county could be mapped into the new zones in the new zoning ordinance. And so the idea would be that the countywide map amendment would take place and would be effective, and the zoning ordinance rewrite would be effective at the same, or on the same date. So the rewrite is approved 2018. It's sitting there waiting to become effective. The mapping step is now underway to place all of the property into the transition zone or comparable zones in the new ordinance. What we pointed out in the background memo for you in terms of Bowie is that means that there's not much changing. About 80% of the properties, or over 80% of the properties within the city, are residentially zoned, and those zones are really just changing one for one in name only. There really is not much of a difference in terms of the new ordinance from the current ordinance. In some of the commercial zones, the multifamily zones, there's a little bit more flexibility being added as a result of the zoning ordinance rewrite. So, for example, in the commercial shopping center zone, you're now under the rewrite, you will be able to do types of residential development as part of a mixed-use concept, and that's already been decided. So that's not really the question about this countywide map amendment. The rewrite already took care of that. So the properties, for example, this commercial shopping center zone properties in the rewrite will be given the CGO zone, which is the nearest comparable zone to what's out there today. And that's the zone that does allow the multifamily units. So really the purpose of tonight's briefing is to allow the council to understand what this CMA is all about. We don't believe that the city needs to take a position here. It's really a question for individual property owners in the county if they're concerned, if they wanted to go to the hearing and let their concerns be known to the county officials. But at this point, it's really an informational item for council. You may be curious, you've heard about this, and this would be an opportunity for me to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Meinert. I appreciate it. So real quick then, first things first, in the, how many commercial zones in the city currently do we have that will soon be able to do residential beyond what they're currently allowed to do?
Well, the change is the commercial shopping center zone. So all of the shopping centers the major shopping centers, not all of them, but most of them are zoned CSC. So the CSC zone will go to the CGO zone as a result of this countywide map amendment.
How many shopping centers are we talking generally? I mean, I'm assuming Free State is probably one of them.
Free State, Marketplace, Hilltop, Bowie Plaza, Pointer Ridge Shopping Center, and there may be a few other smaller centers that have that zoning. Other zones have comprehensive design zones like the Bowie Town Center, the High Bridge Park. Those are not the CSC zone. They're already permitted to have multifamily units.
So at Marketplace and Free State specifically, how many housing units are we talking about maximum that'll be allowed under the new zoning?
You can't really determine that now. It's based on the acreage, the land that would be devoted to the type of use, and so it would be a higher density multifamily. So we're talking about, you know, typically an apartment level of a couple hundred units, typically on a couple of acres, maybe 5 acres or so. So you have to look at a redevelopment scenario where a piece of property is going to be redeveloped and devoting a certain amount of acreage toward a multifamily project.
Okay.
I think the density in that in the zoning ordinance is 48 units per acre on a residential density.
48 units per acre. So I mean, Free State, that's quite a lot of acreage there in total. So you're talking about potentially quite a lot of units that could be built at Free State.
If it was completely redeveloped, that's correct.
Okay, because the issue is that residents are going to be in here screaming at us in 2.5 years' time when Free State and Marketplace and all these other guys are coming to us doing what all commercial shopping center owners do in the 21st century, which is ask for housing to support their projects. And our answer is not going to be all that satisfying to residents if it's, well, 3 years ago, there was this map amendment process and, you know, that was that. So what I'd really like for staff could send us something in writing that lists all of the places in Bowie where the zoning change will allow housing or higher density housing than is currently allowed, because I want to be able to communicate that to residents so that they understand that this is a thing that's happening, and so that they aren't taken by surprise in 3 years when we learn that, you know, the Free State owners are allowed in the future to build 500 units behind Giant. So if staff could send me something in writing, or send the whole council something in writing that lists all the places in the city where either housing is not allowed but will be allowed in the future, or where higher density housing will be allowed in the future where it's not currently allowed, that would be really helpful. And that's all the questions I have, and I really appreciate your presentation and your time, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Dufour?
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the update. Do we have a page yet up on the website on this subject yet?
Good question.
The reference that we've given everyone is to look at the project website, which is a park and planning site. And it's got the map itself, and it's got an explanation and frequently asked questions, which we've given you in this packet. So we've directed people to that website.
Can we go a step further? Can we create a website that's more directed to layman's terms and provides a bit more explanation here at the Bowie level, what the impacts might be? And I have the same concern that Councilman Esteve does. You know, in this document that you're going to prepare in response to his question could probably be good material for that web page as well. I have a significant concern. We had the Marketplace issue that came up. The use for that property with the apartments and the nature of the way they were built were designed. They have not yet been built. It was clearly inappropriate for that location. Can you speak to what we will be able to do to help mitigate some of the, shall we say, risk or exposure with this zoning? For example, if Free State, backs up to people where you could have, again, an apartment building sitting next to a Levitt rancher, what provisions are there to help protect the community from that type of look and feel?
Well, the new zoning ordinance rewrite does include a lot of compatibility standards that don't exist in the zoning ordinance now. So when that ordinance becomes effective later this year, there will be this buffering requirement or a building height step-down requirement actually in the zoning ordinance. And so a project would have to conform to those standards in order to be able to obtain a building permit. What I did not mention earlier when I presented was that this review of the CMA is not the Bowie master plan rezoning. And as council knows, their master plan process just started for the Bowie area, and in about a year we'll have a preliminary master plan in place which will set policies, land use policies for particular areas. Following the approval of the master plan, there will be an opportunity to rezone properties again to conform to the land use recommendations of the new master plan. And so I think, Councilmember Wolfley, that's where you would get at trying to set new policies for particular properties or particular areas, and then possibly down zoning or reducing the amount of density that could occur. That's not possible now through the county-wide map amendment because all of those decisions were made about what the zones would contain when the rewrite was approved. And so all we're doing now is mapping the properties.
Sure.
But there will be that opportunity that will come up in about a year or so.
Will it come up? My understanding is that that process is actually going to be starting sooner than that, and that will be developed and that we will come to fruition in a year or so.
The schedule that we were given was next summer you should see a preliminary master plan. Then that preliminary master plan goes through probably 6 to 8 months of hearings at the county level, work sessions at the county council before it's finally approved. And then there's the zoning step that follows. And so you're really talking about an opportunity to rezone properties in the year 2022, something like that.
Okay, so on the preliminary plan, what opportunities do we have to provide insight, direction, and wishes as the county is developing, I guess as Park and Planning is developing the preliminary master plan?
Well, there will be opportunities throughout. There will be public open house meetings where they'll, as Park and Planning begins to develop the concepts of the master plan, so there will be an opportunity for informal comments. As the preliminary master plan is published, the city will take up its own public hearing process, and the city council will have an opportunity to weigh in and make specific recommendations to the county planning board on the preliminary master plan's recommendations. And so you have between now and then to sort of go through that thought process and look at the areas that you want to make recommendations on, and that would be the time to make them when that preliminary plan comes out next summer.
No, but I want to go back. Are we able to offer any insights or thoughts as they are developing the preliminary plan, as they're working on it now, for example?
Yes, I think they would take any input that anyone would want to give them at any time.
All right, okay, good. I think this is, I think to Mr. Stev's commentary earlier, I think this is one of those things where it's a pretty complex issue given the nature of zoning, and it's not kind of our day-to-day language. So if we could get something on the website that makes it sufficiently clear that someone even as limited in capabilities as myself could understand, I think that would be a great start. And then I would like to suggest that you work with staff to start looking at these properties that we have and our historical concerns, whether it's for green space, for example, Jesuit property, or whether it's places like Hilltop Plaza or some of these other shopping center locations where we have a known concern that if you and staff could start advocating and whispering in the ears of our friends at Park and Planning that we would like those areas protected from excessive development, so that we don't end up in a situation where we have unfortunate buildings right next to what amounts to an existing, low-density area. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Minor, so just so I understand correctly here, so you're saying that so we got master plan, we got zoning rewrite. On the zoning rewrite side, you're saying that zones have already changed?
In the rewrite document, which is going to be the new ordinance, those zones have been created.
Okay.
They haven't been mapped on the ground yet.
All right, so they haven't been implemented yet.
That's what we're doing
Okay.
now.
So quick question then. Is there, what's the amount of time between when we expect those to be implemented and when we expect the master plan rewrite to be completed? Is there any lag time there?
It should happen one after the other.
Pretty
I mean,
much, okay. It's purely a hypothetical, but my only concern was, say that the rewrite zoning gets implemented and then for some reason there's like a 6-month delay in us being able to then subsequently change the zoning based on our master plan, and a developer comes to us and says, oh, real quick, I want to try and get something approved based on this zoning. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a potential window where a developer could come to us based on county zoning and say, I want X, but in truth, we don't want that, and in our master plan would not allow that to happen. It sounds like what you're saying is these things are happening pretty much concurrently, our master plan and the zoning rewrite, and so that's not a likely scenario?
Well, it's a 1-2 step thing, and I think you're right, there is a potential window there, but the county law for master plans, what it says is that once the preliminary plan has been published, any rezoning activity has to be placed on hold. So if someone was trying to change the zoning, they couldn't do that for the duration of the plan once the plan is published as a preliminary plan. So there is going to be an amount of time from the time the effective date of the new CMA takes place until the time you can rezone property under the Bowie master plan. There's no doubt that there's going to be a window of time there.
I know that can we guess as to how much time that is? A week, a month, a year?
I would say a year.
Okay. All right. Now, I mean, in that scenario, by the time a developer would get a plan together and go through the whole process and then pull permits, I'm guessing that a year is not a ton of time, but that's something that I'd like us to just keep in the back of our heads. Cool. Thank you, Mr. Minor.
Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Joe, for what you do every day for the city. One of the things I do want to applaud you for is you and your staff, you do a great job of making sure that we here on the City Council get a good understanding of what's going on. I think I'd like to iterate what some of my colleagues have said too. If there's anything that changes or anything you believe that needs to be brought to our attention, as I'm sure you will, please bring that forward to us so we can see if there's any changes, any surprises, and we look forward to you keeping us abreast as we move forward. And again, thank you for your time this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to adjournment and move to closed session.
Second.
Statutory authority to close session, state government article subsection 3-305, B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.